here we are, what are we, September 22nd. So this would have been September 19th and following. Defense didn't have access, and the court did not have access to those notes. And then we found out that those notes were not complete. It mustn't have been a very, disruptive protest if you and your entire Green Squadron was able to take a lunch in the middle of this protest.
Robert Kraychik here in Ottawa, Ontario for Rebel News, reporting on the trial of Chris Barber and Tamara Lich, which had its 13th day conclude today. It will now be on a temporary hiatus until October 13th, when it is scheduled to resume. Both Lich and Barber are being charged with crimes associated with their conduct as organizers of the 2022 Freedom Convoy, a peaceful demonstration and protest here in downtown Ottawa, which was broadly opposed to what I call the COVID-19 enterprise, a series of mandates, edicts, decrees issued by government in relation to industry, ostensibly for the purposes of public health. Now, we were fortunate enough to speak with Adam, who is a lawyer with the Democracy Fund. His organization is helping fund the legal costs for Tamara Lich. We got to do a little wrap up with him, get his legal insights into what he observed. He's been in this courtroom the entire week with us, and we want to share it with you all out there in the audience. If you value this sort of reporting that's on the ground that you can't get anywhere else, please support us and keep up to date with our work at tamaratrial.com.
Adam, why don't you share with our audience what the major takeaways you've made thus far have been, whether it's from this week or things you know about the previous weeks. What are you seeing? Big view.
I mean, okay, so look, I can really only speak to this week. I think that looking at this week, I think the major takeaway is and I mean, you've been there too. You've been listening in on these proceedings.
We've been talking about it.
That's right. Is that there have been significant disclosure issues, right? We have had issues with, starting with Mr. Ayotte, with respect to his bringing notes to court. He didn't bring notes to court. He was provided some time to bring his notes to court. He brought some. I think what was it, day 3, that he brought some of his notes that he was then at that point permitted to rely upon, and sort of to put that into perspective, he's got 3 days, not in their entirety, so 2.5 days, let's say, just to be fair, of testimony that sort of only the last day, as far as I can recollect, did he have his notes available to him. I think the tale of the tape here, Robert, is that defense doesn't have notes, or wasn't aware of these notes until recently. I don't know exactly when. I know that something significant occurred on August 1st. Defense counsel continues to raise August 1st as a significant date. I think what happened on August 1st was that Crown was required to provide the substance of their case.
That's right.
Here we are, what are we, September 22nd. So this would have been September 19th and following, that we didn't have access. Defense didn't have access, and the court did not have access to those notes. And then we found out that those notes were not complete. What we're looking at is essentially, 2 witnesses here that have at least started their testimony without relying on notes. And I mean, you've seen as well, that the defense has been standing up and saying, hey, look, we'd like access to these notes. We'd like to have them here before us today. There's been some delay attributed to that with respect to the fact that these notes have just sort of been provided within the last couple of days. And again, this is something, to my understanding, that I guess should have been provided by the Crown on August 1st.
This disclosure issue is an ongoing problem, and I want to add one more detail that you and I talked about. I think Ezra Levant mentioned this yesterday during his remarks, that there was a prosecutor previously assigned to this case who was removed and then replaced by these two new prosecutors. And that's a difficult job to undertake, right? You're getting this sort of half-completed strategy, plan, program, aggregation of evidence, and you've got to run with it from there. It's like treating the case as a sort of relay race. And I think you and I discussed that. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Maybe that contributes possibly to this difficulty in preparation for disclosure on the part of the existing prosecutors.
From my understanding, a case where there was an individual originally assigned to this file, okay? This is a person who was assigned for the past, what would we say, roughly 16 months. My math could be off a little bit there. Yeah,
long enough.
It was a long time. So he starts and I'm sure does a fulsome job of preparing for this trial, and then you have he gets for whatever reason the Crown office decided to remove him as Crown with carriage, and now we have two other Crowns who have full, I'm sure have full caseloads. They have other things they're doing. As far as I can tell, these are two very capable Crowns, but it would be very, very difficult to put everything aside, that you're doing to prepare on short order for a 1 month. At the time, that was the estimate, a 1 month trial, a 4-week trial. In about maybe 2 months and change. That's a tall order for anyone. What I found interesting, and you were talking about Martel, I think I caught the tail end of his testimony. He stated at a certain point in examination in chief that he wasn't 100% sure of the timeline with which he was moving. He and the Green Squadron, right, was moving sort of along the line, and then he was asked in cross-examination, okay, hold on, so you mentioned that you took a lunch break, right, in examination in chief, and he said he agreed, and he was like, okay, so who took the lunch break? Was it just you, or was it you and your entire Green Squadron? And he agreed. He said, yes, it was me and the entire Green Squadron. And Greenspawn pointed out, and you were there, Greenspawn pointed out, okay, well, it mustn't have been a very, disruptive protest if you and your entire Green Squadron was able to take a lunch in the middle of this protest.
So, Adam, again, thank you for your time. It was great to be with you this week. Sadly, I probably won't see you for a little while, but cheers.
Hey, maybe October 11th. Appreciate it.
Dear Rebel News audience, if you appreciate and value the reporting that we're delivering out here in the field, please remember that we cannot do this for free. We have operational costs. We need your support to continue delivering these reports. Please visit tamaratrial.com and contribute to our operations.